Coming up, Mike Trout gets the Angels the win in the ninth. This is Locked On Game to Game, MLB.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. Local experts join us to go over all of yesterday's matchups across Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Mike Trout hit a go-ahead home run in the top of the ninth inning to send the Los Angeles Angels to a dramatic win over the Cardinals in St. Louis. Our Locked On Angels host recaps the thrilling win late for LA.
The Angels went down to the farm, and not the minor league farm. They went to Jake Lamb and the GOAT, Mike Trout, to win this game in the top of the ninth, thanks to Jake Lamb's tie game home run, Mike Trout's go-ahead home run, and man, Shohei Ohtani struck out 13 on the mound. What's going on, everybody? It's John Frisch, one half of Locked On Angels. Shohei K'd 13, as I mentioned before. He went 5 innings pitched. He gave up 4 runs. 2 of those were home runs, and it looked a little dicey until the end of the game. Then, at the end, it was 4-3, and suddenly Jake Lamb comes in, pinch hit, home run. Mike Trout gets a go-ahead home run, makes it 5-4. Ohtani doubles, and Anthony Rendon drives him in to make it 6-4. Carlos Estevez comes in and shuts it down, gets Ohtani off the hook. Man, we can't wait to talk about this one against the Cardinals, so we hope you'll join Mike and I on Locked On Angels, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube.
The Chicago Cubs' most recent cold spell brought them all the way back down to an even 500 after they lost their second in a row in Washington on Wednesday. With still one more game left in the series to wrap things up on the road trip, Locked On Cubs tries to figure out what's going wrong with this team right now.
Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Cubs lose another one-run game, the 4th on this road trip where they are currently 1-5. A once very promising and exciting beginning has turned doom on this road trip due to close losses. The Cubs now are second in baseball. They have 9 losses where they have led going into the 6th inning. They have had a lead in 25 of 30 games. They have a plus 43 run differential, and yet they sit at a mediocre average 15-15 record. Today, the story was no offense, double plays, leaving runners on. The Cubs had a chance in the 9th inning, 2 on, nobody out, down a run, couldn't score. Patrick Wisdom with the runners on the corners and 1 out, first pitch, double play to end the game. Cubs are in a funk right now and need to get out of it quickly.
The Pittsburgh Pirates have managed just 2 combined runs in their first 2 games in Tampa this week. Our Locked On Rays host has more on what's allowed their team to be so dominant on the mound and pick up big wins at home.
Not such good news, Rays fans. My name is Ulysses Sembrano, host of the Locked On Rays podcast. Pete Fairbanks is going on the IL. However, apparently, after talking to him, Mark Topkin has quoted Pete saying that he just expects it to be a minimum stay in the IL. This has nothing to do with the Raynaud's syndrome that he's been having in the cold that kind of affects the blood circulation to his fingers. It's more a pain around the wrist area, below the elbow. So it's going to be okay, hopefully, for Rays fans to hear this news. But if you want to hear this and much more, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Rays on YouTube or any other podcast platform. Rays up.
Coming up, the Yankees walk it off in the Bronx. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by BetterHelp. If you're thinking about trying therapy, this is a really great way for you to get started. It's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else needs from you and never take a moment from yourself to figure out what you need. I've found therapy very helpful in my own life, and if this is something that you think you should give it a try, it's really easy to do it through BetterHelp. It's entirely online. It's really convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist. Then you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge until you find the right person that you want to talk to. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you again for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Jose Trevino hit a walk-off pinch hit single in the bottom of the 10th inning to send the New York Yankees to a win over the Guardians on Wednesday. After the thrilling finish, our Locked On hosts with both teams recap that matchup in the Bronx.
This is Stacey Gotsoulias of Locked On Yankees, and the Yankees beat the Cleveland Guardians 4-3 at the stadium in 10 innings. It took 10 for the Yankees to win the game. Let's just be happy they won, because with that win, they win the series 2 out of 3, and they stop a 3-series losing streak. After starting the season winning 5 out of the first 6 and tying a series, they lost 3 in a row. So this is a good ending for this one. It also sets them up for the off day on a positive note. That's always nice. We had unexpected hitting heroes. Willie Calhoun, Jake Bauers both hit home runs. Calhoun hit the game-tying single in the bottom of the ninth. And then Jose Trevino comes in to pinch hit for Kyle Higashioka, and he walks it off with a single. We'll have everything you need to know about this game on the next Locked On Yankees, so please tune in.
That is a kick in the pants. This was a game where the bullpen stunk again. The offense had opportunities and couldn't seem to get it all together. Multiple errors by the Yankees. They still take 2 out of 3 in this series. Cleveland won the one game they probably shouldn't have, and then managed to gift 2 wins to New York. Frustrating series, but hey, that is this team who have lost yet another series. A lot of holes, a lot of issues. We could go through all of them, and we will on the show. Definitely will be a post-mortem day before talking about the Cleveland Guardians. It's just frustrating. It is really frustrating right now. It is a really bad offensive team, and you can have all the great, exciting pitching you want when your offense is worse than the Oakland Athletics offense, which was built to be terrible. That is the worst sign possible. Cleveland Guardians lose again to the New York Yankees and lose yet another series, which has been the story of the season.
Trying to claw their way back into things after a brutal start to the season, the Chicago White Sox have now won 3 games in a row after defeating the Twins again last night. Locked On hosts with both Chicago and Minnesota recap a sudden surge for the Southsiders.
The Chicago White Sox beat the first-place Minnesota Twins 6-4 on the South Side Wednesday night. Hey, I'm Nick Morawski from Locked On White Sox. Feels good to feel good. The White Sox have now won 3 in a row. They've locked up their first series win of the entire season. They go for the sweep on Thursday afternoon with Lucas Giolito on the hill. Who knew that getting rid of Jake Diekman and bringing up Billy Hamilton would be the change that this team needed? Sox are now 10-21 on the season. For more, check out the Locked On White Sox podcast.
Brandon Warren here with a Locked On Twins breathless post-game minute as the Twins let one slip through their fingers on the south side 6-4. Lots of mistakes in this one across all facets of the game. Louis Varland digs an early 3-0 hole, but the Twins do enough to get Dylan Cease out of the game. Actually, one of their better games of all time against Dylan Cease, but it wasn't enough as the offense too often came up empty in big spots. Trevor Larnach, the big issue here, 4 plate appearances, 4 strikeouts. Time to maybe start wondering if he should be shipped out for Alex Kirilloff. We'll talk about that in tonight's full episode. But yeah, Twins offense just has nothing going for it in this one. And just a lot of puzzling, head-scratching decision-making across all facets of the game. We'll have a full breakdown on tonight's Locked On Twins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Toronto Blue Jays lost their season-high 4th game in a row and 3rd straight in Boston on Wednesday. Locked On Blue Jays tells us what has gone wrong for Toronto, with still one more game left for them to play against the Red Sox.
Hello, friends. Craig Ballard, Locked On Blue Jays. Your Toronto Blue Jays dropped their 4th game in a row, and the overall sentiments from Wednesday night's loss are the same from Tuesday night's loss. This team just scuffling right now, not themselves significantly more sloppy than what we've seen and certainly what their potential is this season. Glass half full. It does look like Dalton Varsho started to heat up. Okay, I'll be excited about that. And glass half full, I just don't think there's any way they're going to be swept in all 4 games in the series, because on Thursday in the series finale, it's Kevin Gausman time, and we know how incredible he has been this season. Gausman, remember he had that start against Houston where he allowed 7 runs in the first inning there, whatever the heck that was? Well, in the other 37 2/3 innings pitched that he's had this season, only 3 runs allowed. Only 3 runs allowed. He's been awesome. Join me tomorrow on Locked On Blue Jays as I get you set for that series finale, and it'll be Throwback Thursday, so we'll have some great throwback Toronto Blue Jays stories.
Coming up, the Giants win their series against the defending champs. This is Locked On Game to Game, MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by RocketMoney, formerly known as Truebill. This app shows all your subscriptions in one place, cancels what you don't want for you. Super easy, super convenient. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions with RocketMoney today. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you again for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Zach Greinke picked up his first win of the season by shutting down the Orioles in a 6-0 shutout on Wednesday as Kansas City cruises to a win at home. Locked On Orioles goes over why Baltimore couldn't find a groove on offense.
That game absolutely, positively stunk. Worst performance of the year by far for the Orioles as they fall 6-0 to the Kansas City Royals, evening up the series at 1 game apiece. O's offense scored 11 runs on Tuesday night. Then they literally didn't show up. Zach Greinke had 44 pitches thrown through 5 scoreless innings. Came out of the game. I still don't know why. But the Royals still had the Orioles scoreless. Nobody got anything done. Kyle Gibson was bad on the other side for the Orioles. In 162, sometimes you just don't have your best effort. That was Wednesday for the Orioles. You flush it. You try to win the series tomorrow. But I'll recap it all coming up on Thursday's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
The San Francisco Giants took 2 out of 3 from Houston after winning the rubber game yesterday. Our Locked On hosts with both teams fill you in on everything that you need to know from that midweek matchup.
The Giants silenced the Houston Astros again behind another pitching gem, this one by Logan Webb. Oh, so close to matching Tony DeSclafani's 8 shutout innings yesterday. Webb did give up a 2-run homer with 2 outs in the 8th inning, but just a fabulous pitching performance by Webb, following up on a fabulous pitching performance by DeSclafani. And the Giants badly needed that. Their biggest problem this year, frankly, has been just simply giving up too many runs by their pitchers. And so the offense, it's not like they went crazy in these last couple games, scoring 2 runs in game 2 and 4 runs in game 3. And yet they win them both and a badly needed series win against the Astros. They silenced that team. They kind of silenced Mauricio Dubon as well, who had a lot to say after the game 1 win. And then the Giants pretty much shut him down. He hit into a key double play in the finale. So we just broke this down on the latest Locked On Giants. Check it out. It's your team every day.
Hey there, H. John Wheelhouse here with Locked On Astros, and the Astros started the series off on the right foot. They won 7-3. They go into game 2 and 3, and they only managed 2 runs. That's right, those 2 runs came off of an Alex Bregman late home run today with his first home run at Minute Maid Park for the 2023 season. With pitching injuries abound right now, the Astros are wondering when their offensive players will return. What is exactly going on with Luis Garcia, and how will they survive this 9-game road trip as they start in Seattle against Luis Castillo? So stay tuned in to Locked On Astros. Remember, we're your team every day. Become an everydayer by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, we're your team every day. Go Stros.
That's it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game MLB. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure that you check out Locked On MLB and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.